welcome back to another BrewCraic. This is the first one of 2021. A lot of you may be familiar with our brand Loughran Family Malt, but what you may not realise is that we supply our quality malt to distilleries across Ireland. And to give you a little insight into that world, we are going to chat to our Distillery Relationship Manager, Aonghus Giggins. So Aonghus, I'm just going to let you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Hi Joan, hi James. Thanks for having me on today. So just a bit background to myself. I studied agricultural science, horticulture in Warrenstown and in University College Dublin. So I've had a strong background in agriculture. After studying in university, I travelled to Australia and spent some time working on farms there and getting sunburn by my natural colouring. But obviously, got to see a different type of agricultural systems in that part of the world, quite different to here in Ireland. Then on returning, since returning, I've been working with my family business. With two strands to the business, one in agricultural consultancy and another strand in agricultural tourism. So again, in both lines of the business, I've got great insight into lots of different agricultural enterprises, different system types, both in Ireland and internationally. As well as that, we've on our agricultural tourism business, we hosted a lot of visitors to Ireland, coming to look at Irish agricultural production, looking at Irish food and Irish tourism. So it's given me a great insight into the passion there is and the interest there is in Ireland as a country, and also in our Irish food beverage production here as well. So it's kind of with the downturn in tourism, and as a result of COVID, it was quite a timely call that I got from James to see if I'd be willing to come on board with Loughran Family Malt. Obviously, I know James going back quite a few years, and know that the company has a strong reputation both in the animal feed sectors and in the malting and grain production side of our business. So I was more than happy to come on board, and delighted to be involved for the past few months in working with a lot of top quality distilleries and looking to grow our business.
Okay, James, can you tell us maybe a little bit about Loughran Family Malt's history?
So we've been here on the family farm since 1908, and I took over running the family farm in the mid 2000s, and the idea was that they should try and find ways of growing and developing the farm to try and make it a bit more sustainable. And in 2014, we started to do that by growing barley for malting for craft breweries, and then supplying that barley on to craft breweries. And that's been a great eye-opening experience for us, and a great ability for us to talk to people who use grains in the beverage industry and could produce great drinks from them. So it seems like a pretty natural progression to take some of that offering and take some of that concept and move it across from the brewing sector towards the distilling sector, and have some conversations there with some great distillers about how we might be able to help them out.
I suppose that's where I was quite excited to join with Loughran Family Malt, and that obviously marrying the history the Loughran family have on the farm, tradition they have with growing quality grains, and obviously my background in Irish agriculture, passionate about Irish agriculture and looking at ways that we can improve the provenance of Irish agriculture produce, and then in turn providing distilleries with high quality grains, high starch grains, that they in turn will be able to produce higher spirit yield from, higher quality produce in turn for producing for their markets, both nationally and internationally.
So yeah, that comes back to then what is it that Loughran Family Malt is doing on the farm to produce these high quality grains?
About 2 years ago, we really started. We just stopped for a moment and spent a bit of time studying about the sort of grain that gets used in distilleries. So while a lot of malted barley gets used in a range of Irish whiskey, when it comes to pot still whiskey, which is really the quintessential Irish whiskey, the flagship style, there's actually a lot of unmalted grains in there. So it'll be up to 30% unmalted barley and up to 5% of other cereals. And we just felt that a lot of the grains that were being used by the sector for that style of whiskey were really grains that had originally been produced for animal feed and were either surplus requirements or just convenient to use. And the idea was that, well, how can we grow grains specifically for the distilling sector? And how can we make those grains better suited to use in distilleries rather than animal feed? So what characteristics is it that a distiller will look for? And how can we grow those characteristics into the grain? And what we found was really what distillers are looking for from a quality and performance perspective was alcohol production, ethanol production. And that ultimately comes from having the highest starch content possible in the grain. So we took a step back and did a bit of research, and I carried out some field trials over a season or two with a couple of different growing regimes and different cereals to try and figure out what we could do to increase the starch content across wheat, barley, rye, oats. And we found that by playing with a few variables, sowing date, nitrogen rate, nitrogen application date, plant population, variety choice, site selection, a few key variables. By tweaking them and changing them, what we were able to do was increase the starch percentage in the grain by 2 or 3%, increase the grain size by a meaningful amount, so that the starch to fibre, starch to husk ratio was better, and also do that in a way which was both sustainable and which was sustainable and was also traceable back to farm, traceable back to field, and done in harmony with the natural world that we're trying to make the most of here.
And I think also a lot of our distillery clients that we're working with have been really excited by the fact that because of our unique offering, we can offer a fully traceable product from growing in a specific field if they request it, right through to the harvesting, batching, bagging until arrival at their distillery. From any reports we've had back, as James has specified, that improved quality, they've really seen it in the improvement in alcohol yield off the back of using the improved quality grains. And yeah, we're having the conversation with a lot of our clients, customers, looking at specific varieties, specific grain types. As I said, looking at particular soil types, looking at field locations, that we're quite flexible in that regard. So that's an offering that we're seeing a lot of distilleries are interested in having the conversation with us.
Yeah, I think it's been really interesting. You and I, Aonghus, have a lot of fun chatting to distilleries about how they might change the mash bill or include grains that they'd maybe overlooked before, hadn't really felt they had as much access to, such as rye or maybe oats. And it's certainly given us a lot to work on here on the farm. So we grew a relatively small amount of rye in previous years, but this year we've got quite a lot in. And the idea of that is to grow quite a bit of rye for distilleries. But from a farming point of view, it gives us a whole other crop that we just didn't have any reason to grow prior to now. And that helps with things like biodiversity. It helps with farm efficiency by spreading our cropping cycle. And it's just really exciting to be able to take a cereal crop such as rye, which was pretty much died out in Ireland, and nobody was really producing it very much, and find a meaningful reason to grow what's a a terrific crop, along with our oats, our wheat, and our barley. And it's great to see distilleries get behind that, and want to become involved in the growing process, and being able to tell them, which field we've chosen for their oats, or which field we're going to plant with their rye, and share photographs and share content with that during the season. John, like, you've done some of that content sharing, and I think you've had some bits of feedback as well, even from distilleries as the years gone on.
Yeah, it's interesting to get a little bit of an insight into another area that Loughran Family Malt supplies to, and I think it's fantastic that Aonghus, you're on board the team now, and I think maybe this might help some distilleries put a face to the name because I'm sure they've been chatting to you over phone calls during this current circumstances. So thanks for coming on and chatting to us, and I hope that this video has been informative in some ways. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Bye.
Talk to you guys soon.